Welcome to the wildest and most jaw-dropping AITA Reddit stories that Reddit has to offer this week. Let's dive into them. The first story for this video is from What's Up Brah. AITA for breaking up with my girlfriend because she posts half pictures on social media. I, 29M, have been dating this girl, 30F, for about 6 months, and things have gotten really complicated. I'm currently in my country for personal reasons. Was supposed to be originally for only slightly over a week, but I've since extended my stay a bit longer, which has given me some space to think. When I was back in her country, she wouldn't leave me alone in my own place, so it's been hard to get any perspective until now. Before I left, we had a huge fight. She got mad at me at my friend's birthday party because she arrived late and felt excluded from a serious conversation I was having. Honestly, I didn't even want her there that night, but she insisted on staying at my place afterward, even though she lives just 10 minutes away. I was drunk and told her I needed some space. Pretty rudely TBH, since I was drunk and pissed that she ruined an otherwise fantastic evening/night, but she wouldn't leave. The next day, I found out she'd posted some pretty revealing photos on Instagram after we fought. I'm talking leather lingerie kind of stuff, exposing a lot. We'd agreed that posting provocative pics like that was crossing a boundary in our relationship. She then told me maybe we should break up and said she'd have her stuff packed and be gone before I got home. I agreed, thinking it was for the best. When I got back, her things were still there, but she wasn't. I went out for drinks with a friend to clear my head, and went to sleep on the couch while watching some Netflix. She showed up at around 3 a.m., woke me up while I was sleeping on the couch, and wanted to talk. Even though she said she'd leave, she ended up staying at my place for a few more days, begging me not to break up with her. I even slept on the couch for 2 nights because she wouldn't leave my bed. It felt like she was ignoring my wishes and not respecting my space. I also saw that she followed some random guy on Instagram, and turns out that she invited him to play badminton with her and her friends. Badminton was something we used to do together, until her friends unfollowed me after a previous breakup we had. She didn't even tell me about this guy. If I did something similar, she'd definitely have an issue with it. She's also had issues with drinking. She used to come home drunk, being loud and aggressive. We talked about it, and she agreed to cut back. But then on Halloween, she went out, got shit-faced, and disappeared all night. She didn't even let me know she got home safe. When I asked, she told me the next day she was so drunk she was puking, then collapsed so she wasn't able to text me at all. This isn't the first time she's gotten so drunk that we couldn't have a proper conversation. On my last day before leaving, she was in a terrible mood. She said she had a headache, but it turned out she was on her period, which she didn't tell me about until after we'd argued because she was giving me the silent treatment and being quite rude. She made me feel miserable all day, and when I tried to talk to her about it later, she brushed me off. She didn't even wish me a safe flight or check if I'd arrived. There have been other issues too. One night, we went to a restaurant and I was trying to have a conversation, but she kept shutting me down, saying my topics were boring, even though she wasn't contributing anything herself. Eventually, she got pissed and just left me there alone. I had to pay the whole bill, which wasn't cheap. Another time, we were in a cab in her country, where English isn't the native language, and she started bad-mouthing the driver in English because she felt slighted for some reason, assuming he wouldn't understand. I asked her to stop because it was disrespectful and that quite a lot of people in her country understand English, and she got mad at me for it, saying that it's not true that her countrymen can speak or understand English. That's beside the point. Bad-mouthing people right in front of them for some perceived slight isn't cool at all, IMO. She's also gotten upset over trivial things, like me not reposting her Instagram story immediately, even though we were together the whole night, went for drinks after dinner, and I paid for everything. She deleted the story and got pissed at me. When I was stressed about possibly losing my job, she made fun of me in front of her friends, saying things like, "You're getting fired anyway." It felt like she didn't care about my feelings at all. Despite all this, she kept telling me she misses me and wants to make things work. She even wanted to visit me or plan a trip together. I initially agreed, but then decided against it. I sent her a message explaining why I don't think it's a good idea to continue the relationship. I laid out all my concerns: the disrespect, the drinking, the lack of support. She replied saying she wanted to talk and was willing to listen, but when I reiterated my feelings, she blocked me on all platforms. Now I'm feeling guilty and wondering if I handled things the right way. Part of me doesn't want to hurt her because I don't hate her, but I also feel like the attraction is gone and the relationship is toxic. AITA. By ending it? Should I have tried harder to communicate? Or is it better to just move on? TL.DR. Ended things with my girlfriend after multiple issues like disrespecting boundaries, not respecting my space, and constant drama. She befriended another guy without telling me, posted revealing photos despite our agreements, and had problems with drinking. After trying to address these issues, she blocked me on IG and WA when I told her I wanted to end things, feeling guilty and unsure if I did the right thing. OP is not an AH for breaking up with her girlfriend who violated their relationship boundaries multiple times, so I would rate him 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. On the other hand, OP girlfriend is an AH for being dismissive troublemaker in the relationship, so I would rate her 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Raven Ryle. AITA for spending too much time with my in-laws. I, 24F, am really close with my in-laws and think of them like my own family. Last weekend, my husband was traveling for work, and I have anxiety about being home alone. So like I always do when he's out of town, I went to stay with my FL, 57M, Emil, 55F, and SL, 22F, while he is gone. They've always been great to me and said they love having me over and always make sure I feel welcome. On Sunday, BL, 32M, and his girlfriend, 29F, came over, and we all had dinner together. I thought we were all having a good time, but I noticed Bill's girlfriend acting a little weird when she asked where my husband is, and I said he was away for work and wouldn't be coming today. She seemed surprised to find out I stayed with my in-laws whenever he was out of town. She didn't say anything more about it for the rest of dinner, but afterwards, while I was in the kitchen alone, she came up to me and told me it was really weird that I would stay with my in-laws if my husband wasn't here. I explained to her that I don't like being home alone, but she still seemed to think it was weird. She said if anything, I should go stay with my family instead. I think of my in-laws like family, so I didn't really like the way she said it, but just explained that I don't really have any family of my own, since I grew up in foster care and in-laws are like my family. She just seemed to get more annoyed though, and said that she and BIL were getting more serious, and she wanted to get closer to our family, but it was really hard since I was around so much, and that I was getting in the way of her building a relationship with them. She brought up how I was always at family dinners, vacations, and meet up with my in-laws regularly to just spend time with them. I didn't really know what to say, so I just stayed quiet, and eventually she said she'd really appreciate it if I stepped back from my in-laws so she could spend some time with them without me in the way. I guess I could see where she was coming from, but I felt kind of attacked, like she was blaming me for not having a better relationship with them. I didn't really want to argue, so I just agreed and she seemed happy enough. I felt really awkward after that, so I decided to not spend the night and head home early. My in-laws were concerned because they know I don't like being home alone and asked me if there was anything wrong and tried to convince me to stay the night like planned. But I felt BIL girlfriend getting upset again when she saw this, so I just insisted I was fine and made up an excuse about needing to get my laptop, and that it would be easier just to stay home at that point since I was really tired. BL offered to drive me home and back, but I kept insisting it was fine, and that I didn't want to make the trip both ways or make him do that, and I would just call an Uber. Eventually I agreed to let BL drive me home anyway, but I wouldn't come back with him and just stay home. BL could tell I was upset on the drive, but I told him I didn't want to talk about it. I guess they told my husband what happened because when he got back he asked me about it and I didn't know what to say. I just told him that I wanted to come home and it was no big deal, but he knows there's something more and keeps asking me about it and is starting to get upset. I won't talk about it. My husband has always been a bit protective, so I'm worried if I tell him he'll get upset with BIL and his girlfriend. But I'm not sure if I'm just making a big deal out of nothing. I'm not really sure what to do from here because I am really close to all my in-laws, and maybe BIL's girlfriend feels excluded because of me, and I should give her a chance to become closer with them. But at the same time, I don't like not talking about this with my husband, and I really love all my in-laws and don't want to stop spending time with them. I really do think of them like my own family, but maybe that makes me a bit overbearing, and none of them want to tell me that, because they are all really nice. They all make me feel like family, and call me their daughter and sister, which maybe makes BIL's girlfriend a bit jealous. So, AITA for monopolizing my in-laws. Should I give BIL's girlfriend a chance to bond with them and hang out with them less? I don't really want to do that because my SILs are like my best friends, And to be honest, I'm not super close with people outside of my in-laws and they are my support system. But maybe that's part of the problem. It's also made me worry if maybe my in-laws also feel I'm too needy but are too nice to say anything. OP is not an AH for staying with her in-laws because she treats them like her family. If both OP and her in-laws are okay with it, her brother-in-law's girlfriend has no right to taunt her for living with her in-laws. She is being unreasonable here and is an AH for forcing OP to step back. So, I would rate her 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets nothing. Let's now jump on to the next story from 𝐂𝐍𝐆. AITA for not forgiving my ex after he chose his mom over me? I'll start by explaining what happened that led to our breakup. To sum it all up, my 25F exes, 25M cousin, lied to my ex's brother and sister-in-law that I was spamming him and talking poorly about my ex and his family. My ex's SIL then sent my ex long paragraphs degrading my character and claiming that I was out to get him and his family. He made me show him all of the messages between me and his cousin. To prove that I didn't do those things, I was telling the truth. My ex then told his SEL it was all a lie, and she promised not to tell his mom these things. She betrayed my ex and told his mom these rumors about me behind his back, which led her to express her disapproval of him dating me. I tried to apologize to his family for the drama, explain the truth, and even got his mom a gift, but she wouldn't budge. After a month of my ex distancing himself and being cold toward me, he broke up with me over text, saying that he ultimately felt that he had to make a choice between me and his family, and that will never be okay with him. This felt like he was blaming me for putting him in that position, even though I did everything I could to mitigate the drama. For some context, my ex told me that he has trust issues because of his mom leaving him when he was young to live with a short-term boyfriend in a different state, separating him from his brothers. He also mentioned that she has never sustained a relationship longer than a year, so I couldn't understand why he would trust her advice on how to handle our relationship. He also had previously mentioned how his family is toxic and constantly starting drama between each other. It's been 3 months now since he left me. Weeks ago, I wrote him a letter describing how I felt about the situation and how confusing and unfair it was because my ex always seemed afraid and unwilling to lose me. This letter was weighing on me, so I decided to send it to him a few days ago, not expecting a response. My ex emailed me saying he apologized for causing me any hurt, said that it wasn't his intention, and repeated the line about how he felt he had to make a choice. I was really upset by this response, and replied in anger saying that he still made a choice, and that it was his mom who put him in that position. I also told him that thanks to his mom, it led me to this new guy who I've been talking to. This is where I might be the AH. I knew it would crush my ex to tell him I was talking to someone new, but at the same time, those are the consequences of breaking up with someone. I also asked him not to reply to my email. A few hours later, I got a message from my ex on Instagram saying that he apologizes for causing any hurt, that it wasn't his intention, and that it was all just an unfortunate situation. This angered me even more because I felt he was belittling everything I endured. I told him that I couldn't forgive him if he can't acknowledge that his family was the one who created this situation and how poorly I was treated in the midst of it. I told him that he decided making his family uncomfortable was worse than losing me completely and how that is not someone who ever valued me. I also told him I deserve to be happy with someone who chooses me, knowing that his biggest fear during our relationship was that I would leave him for someone better. Finally, I questioned his choice to trust his mom and reminded him of his reasons not to trust her. I told him I didn't want to hear from him unless he was going to give me a genuine apology, and that I hope one day he realizes how badly he messed up by giving up someone who loved him unconditionally to please historically toxic people. Am I an AH for being so harsh? Part of me wonders if I am being unfair by not being forgiving. I understand how powerful family dynamics can be, and how difficult it can be to stand up to your family, especially when they are combative and stubborn. I know he was put in a very difficult position, and that his family refused to leave him alone until he ended things with me. I'm sure it was really stressful for him, but at the same time, I believed that I was at least worth the fight if he truly did think I was the one for him. So AITA for not being more sympathetic to his perspective and accepting his apology. OP is not an AH for standing up for herself and wanting a genuine apology from her boyfriend. She is completely justified here. So, I would rate her 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. OP's boyfriend is an AH for prioritizing his toxic family over her girlfriend, despite knowing that they mistreated his girlfriend. So, I would rate him 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from _Peach4012. AITA, for only applying a discount to my portion of rent? I, 23F, live in a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment. When I first moved in, November 2021, I was just an average tenant. In October of 2022, my current roommate moved in. January 2023, I started at my current job. The guy who owns the company I work for also owns the apartment complex I live in. Once I passed my 90 days, I was able to receive a 20% discount on rent. Because I was the one working for the company, I assumed it was okay to apply the 20% discount to my portion of the rent. I don't charge my roommate extra. I take the full rent amount and split that in half. That is her rent amount, and then I take 20% off of the full rent and apply that to my half of the rent. So, while she pays $855, I pay $513. This is before utilities and such. Recently, my roommate and I had an argument about the air conditioning. I am home 1/3 of the day, so the only time I'm really home is to sleep, or sometimes on the weekends. My roommate works from home and does not have a functioning car. So, unless a family member or friend is driving her places, she is always home. Some nights we're getting stuffy during the summer to fall transition. I run extremely hot and she usually runs cold. So at night, I was running the AC 2 degrees colder than what we had agreed on. During the summer, when I leave for work, I would set it at 74. But when I would get home, it would be at 71. So, we had agreed on running it at 70 to 73. However, I was changing it because the season was changing. I didn't think it would be an issue since she would run it all day at 71 in the middle of summer and peak hours, making our bill $130. I never complained about the price or her running it constantly because that room tends to get very warm. When I was turning the AC to 68 at night, it wasn't getting any colder. I walked back out to check the thermostat, and it was set back at 70. The thermostat only has 3 controls: hot, cold, auto, and then buttons to adjust up or down on the temp. I knew it was her changing it, so I asked her about it. She claimed that she thought it was changing on its own. And then she said that because the weather was getting cooler, there's no reason to have it cold inside as well. Inside the apartment, it was getting stuffy. While it would be 68 degrees outside, it was warm air. On top of that, I couldn't open my balcony door because I have a tree right outside that brings mosquitoes and spiders. So, I have to wait until they die to open it. I explained this to her, and she replied by saying that her room ends up freezing at 4 a.m. and that she thought I had fans in my room to keep me cool. I explained that I understand that it gets cold to her, and if there was any way to close her vent. And that yes, I do have fans, but they will just blow around hot air. That I am waking up sweating at night. She then says that we have a dilemma, that she is trying not to freeze, even when I'm not there. This is a direct quote from the text she sent me. I'm also paying more for everything, because you get a discount, but I don't think it's fair that I'm trying to keep the apartment at a reasonable temperature, so it won't affect the bill, and you cause it to increase because you're always hot. She also said, the best way to save money is to have it set at 78 year-round. I pointed out that if 78 was ideal, then why was she running it at 71? I offered her a heated blanket I had as well. In response, she said, I mentioned 78 degrees because I need you to understand that it isn't normal to have the house as cold as you want it, even in the fall/winter. You're always hot because of your health, not because it is genuinely warm in here. She also said, I shouldn't feel confined to my room because you want to keep the rest of the apartment cool. Which, sure, I understand. But the times I'm running it is at night when you are already in your room anyways. She also tends to work in the kitchen, and when I'm home, I've needed to use it, she has told me to hurry up and be fast because she has to have her camera on. We split all utilities 50-50. She is not paying more or less than me in the fluctuating bills. She is only paying more in rent. Also, how is she freezing when I'm not there? She has access to the thermostat. She knows how to change it because she was actively changing it daily to 71 degrees when it was 98+ degrees outside. I only ever change the thermostat when I am home and staying home. I feel like she may be in the wrong here because she is using more energy than me. She is home all day, uses more Wi-Fi, electricity, and gas using all appliances during peak hours. My roommate also benefits from the discount. Our rent does not fluctuate. Maintenance gets done with work orders extremely fast. We don't have to pay for water, sewage, or trash. She also complains when maintenance doesn't come during the time that she requested, because it interrupts her work. She has even left a sign on the door saying, "Working from home, do not knock." When I first moved in, maintenance didn't care one bit what time you wanted them to come by. They will get there when they do. My parents tell me that I should share because it's the right thing to do. My partner and co-workers tell me that it is my discount, and that if she wants the discount, to get a job here instead. I truly feel like I shouldn't have to share my discount with her, since she already benefits from other perks as well. But AITA for not sharing? OP is not an AH for applying the discount to only her portion of rent, because the discount is a job perk earned by her, not by her roommate. So, OP is not an AH, and I would rate her 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. OP's roommate is being ungrateful despite the fact that OP has been sharing other job benefits with her roommate. She is an AH, a big one, and so I would rate her 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Dumb Pony. AITA for cancelling my wedding after how my fiance feels about my daughter. Before you read my post, I am not from America. I am sorry if my writing is terrible, but I will do my best. For background context, I was married when I was 22 and my husband was 25. He had a daughter who was 2 when we married. I consider her my daughter in every way. My husband passed away sadly when she was 4. So, I, 34F, have been with my fiancée Jessie, 35M, for 8 years. My daughter Bailey is 14F. She considers Jessie her father. Jessie has never treated Bailey wrong at all, but knows of my husband who had passed away. Jessie has always treated her sweetly and like a daughter. I'm currently 6 months pregnant. We are all excited. Jessie has told me how he wants to adopt Bailey after getting married. To surprise her, we are getting married in August. I wouldn't say we are close to being done with everything, but we did plan a big dinner, and I did invite my friends and Jessie's friends. Bailey was staying the night over at a close friend's house, so Bailey wasn't there. We were all catching up and having a great night. Just all around happiness from everyone. Till the topic of the wedding came up. That is when things went downhill. It was all good. We got to talking about our honeymoon. We were going to bring Bailey, because that was our plan. When Jessie did say he didn't want to bring Bailey, which kind of shocked me, because we both agreed to it, so I was taken aback from it. He started going on about how now we both have a real child, and we don't have to pretend anymore to take care of my stepdaughter, who was never my real child. This point, all our friends and I were very flabbergasted and looked at him like he had something crazy on top of his head. He kept going on and on until I kind of freaked out in front of everyone and told him that Bailey would always come first and he is last to me now, that he had to leave and I'm canceling the wedding. He tried talking to me, but I was not in shape to hear him. His friends did escort him out for me and left with him. Few of my girlfriends stayed with me that night. Jessie had been blowing up my phone so much, wanting to work things out. I honestly don't ever want to. I haven't told Bailey what happened and just lied to my family and his family about why we cancelled the wedding. I just want some quiet now and not for anyone to be upset. But some of his friends did message me saying he has the right to talk about his feelings and opinion, which got me so puzzled at this point. AITA? Update. I grew up with my family and another family whose parents were best friends with mine since high school. My parents had me, 28F, and my 2 older brothers, 31M and 35M, while their friends had 4 boys, M27, M29, M30, and M37. Growing up was pretty nice, but the boys used to pick on me a lot and exclude me during their girls are yucky phase. I wouldn't say I see these boys as brothers, but maybe as cousins. I was close to M27 and M29 when we were little. I will call them Adam and Jake. Until we were 15, we were really close and did a lot together. I don't talk to Jake much anymore. No hard feelings, but he grew up to be a classic tech bro and can be pretty condescending. However, our families are obsessed with the idea of us ending up together. The other guys are already married, and Adam is gay. They've always pushed for us to be together, making us go to the store alone at Christmas, telling us both an earlier time to meet at the restaurant for Dad's birthday, talking him up a lot, etc. Then both Jake and I met our SOs. I have been with my fiance for 5 years, and Jake met his fiance 3 years ago. Our families have been very disappointed and have not welcomed our SOs warmly. One Christmas, I took Jake's fiancée Tracy aside and explained the weird family lore to her. With Jake, just like we did with my fiancé, we assured her that it was just a weird thing of our family, and that Jake and I have not been close for ages and have never had more than a friendly relationship. Ironically, having to stand against our parents made us all a little closer. But we come to the problem. Jake and Tracy are going to get married soon, and it has been chaos. Our parents have upped their antics by 2,000%. Family dinners are full of, we thought you two would get married. They brought out a picture I apparently drew of me and Jake when we were little of us getting married. I suspect they made it. It did not look like it was made by an actual child. They were cornering Tracy about making me the matron of honor and letting me wear white. What? Also, his brothers and my brothers joined in, making jokes about us being star-crossed lovers and calling me the missus. I distanced myself heavily from my family during that time and stopped going home after talking to them, did nothing. One day, one of my brothers invited me out. He said it was just my 2 brothers and me. So, I went to his apartment, and when I arrived, it was Jake's bachelor party. One of his brothers screamed out that the stripper was here. You. I wanted to leave, but the next train left close to 12 a.m., and it was not the safest neighborhood. So, I stayed. They tried to make me drunk, were constantly physically pushing me and Jake together, and even locked us in my brother's bedroom. I could hear loud laughing from the other side. Jake and I did not talk much. He apologized to me and asked me if I could not come to the wedding, as I made Tracy uncomfortable. I completely understood and said at that point I was not planning to go anymore. He offered to drive me home, as he was also completely sober. When they opened the door, he said we were going home. In their heads, that meant we were going to be intimate or something, because all the caveman sounds started. The next day, my phone was blowing up. Someone uploaded a video of me and Jake leaving and captioned it, "Finally." It was very awkward. I am clearly uncomfortable, and so is Jake as we exit the apartment and enter his car. There were comments, calls, and texts. Tracy called me crying and cursing me out. Jake called me apologizing and telling me he tried to explain. My mother and his mother sent me a bunch of texts saying how proud they are and that it was about time. My fiancé is understanding, but he wants me to make clearer boundaries with my family. I drove past their house and they were all there. They didn't even let me talk and were just love-bombing me. I started screaming and told them Jake and I have never and will never be together, and I will not be leaving my loving fiancé, that I would not be going to Jake's wedding. And if they kept up with this, I would cut every single one of them off because I am tired and just want to live my life and not their incest fairy tale. By the end of my meltdown, my mother and his mother were crying, and my father just told me to get out. Since then, I have been getting messages from my brothers calling me a for treating my family like that because they only wanted the best for me. So, AITA, edit. No, an Uber was not an option. Taxis and Ubers are ungodly expensive here. Thus is take the freaking train. Also, no, we don't have a car. Tracy was away and my fiancé had a night shift. Update 2. My best friend and I have been close for years, but lately, things have changed. She hasn't been supportive during my wedding planning. She missed my engagement party, saying she had other plans, and didn't show up for my bridal shower, claiming she was too tired. When I asked her to be my maid of honor, she seemed uninterested and didn't help with any of the preparations. She didn't even ask how things were going or offer any assistance. Whenever I try to talk to her about the wedding, she changes the subject or seems bored. She didn't help with choosing the dress, the venue, or anything else. I feel like I'm going through this important time in my life without her support. Am I overreacting? I don't want her at my wedding because it feels like she doesn't care. I really want my sister to be my maid of honor instead. Will I be wrong for this? Update 3. So not going to name names because I want to keep this anonymous, but me, 24, F, and fiancé 22, M, have been together 2 years now and lived together pretty much since. I have a son who is almost 4, but fiancé is not the father. We met not long after he was born, and he's helped me raise him. Father is not involved. My fiance's mother has had an issue with me since I started dating him pretty much, but always indirectly. So she would make snide comments that weren't bad enough to say something about. But when we got engaged, we were all sat at the dinner table, and she told us she didn't want us to marry yet, and should wait. We booked the wedding for 2 years after engagement. 7 months from now, our wedding is due. But it seems since she has gotten worse, she constantly bugs him and calls even when she knows he's busy. And if he doesn't answer immediately, she spam calls him. It's been hard work. But back in May, I lost our baby through ectopic pregnancy. It was really hard on us. And she helped look after my son whilst I was in hospital. But during this time, she made even worse comments and even told me to shut up one day when me and my partner were teasing each other. When I got home from hospital, she was so cold to me and was questioning me on how I knew how far along I was, etc., etc. To the point I cried because after losing a baby, I didn't want to be interrogated. I saw her once after that, and it was on her birthday, and all was good. Until 2 months later, she started making rumors up about me to her friends and my partner, accusing me of cheating and lying to him, which never happened, and since hasn't spoken to me. Me and my partner thought this may blow over, so waited it out, but during this time, 3 months, she excluded me from family events, my partner's birthday meal she'd organized, BBQs, etc. But my problem is that my partner is still going to these things without me, and isn't really setting clear boundaries. We have spoken through this with a therapist, and she said he should, so he said to his mother, he thinks she needs to see our therapist to work through these things, so she did. But yesterday, we saw our therapist after his mother had gone, and our therapist informed me that it was clear that there would be no change or compromise with his mother. She is pretty much set on hating me, basically, and that I either need to put up with that for the future, him going to family events without me and keeping that life separate, or pretty much end the relationship. Now I don't want to end it, because we have something really good as a couple. But at the same time, I feel I don't want to put up with this forever. I just kind of want to know the right thing to do, so if anyone could give their opinion, it would be much appreciated. Edit. I also don't want to be the person to make him choose, hence why I don't tell him not to go to these family gatherings. On his birthday, I did express how it made me feel, but he said I was making him choose, and just as bad as them, so I felt pretty guilty afterward. OP is not an AH for cancelling her wedding with Jesse, because his insensitive comments about OP's daughter show that he has no respect for her, and he doesn't care about the emotional well-being of OP's daughter. It is really humiliating, and this behavior cannot be justified. As for scores, I would rate OP0 and OP's fiance 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.